Copa America's cooked. I don't know what to tell you. I've been watching both tournaments, right? And going into it, I would have attempted to make the case that Euros and Copa America were at least somewhere near the same level. But they're not. And anybody pretending that they are is a fool, right? And I'm not saying that South America in particular doesn't offer a certain type of quality. It just doesn't offer near as much. Right. Like, there's no way that we can equate the level of teams that are, let's say, World Cup standard between South America and Europe. You just can't. Which means winning the Euros is always going to be more difficult. But I've got a few different numbers things to show you when it comes to Copa America actually being cooked. Right. And the first one is obviously that the Euros is something that you have to qualify for, and Copa America is not. The Euros, there are 24 teams. Copa America, there are only 16. Well, in Copa America, right, every single team in South America makes it, which includes Bolivia, Paraguay, Venezuela. And even though Venezuela's had a terrific tournament, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Venezuela, those teams are at best coming in at Georgia or Romania level when it comes to Europe, right? And those teams obviously were able to make the knockouts, but they also kind of got thumped once they got there, and it was pretty obvious they got found out, right? Those teams did not make it into the quarterfinals, let alone win all three matches like Venezuela was able to do. Now, I'm more than happy to set up a friendly between Georgia and Venezuela to try and settle this, but I feel like the point holds. The point stands up in that particular instance, because then you have your CONCACAF teams. All right, you've got Panama, Costa Rica, Jamaica, right? Jamaica and Panama have both been to one World Cup ever. Jamaica's best player's not at the tournament because his dad doesn't like the federation, right? Looking at you, Leon Bailey. Panama's got players from just all over the place. I mean, like, Panama is not, I mean, they beat the United States national team, so I'm aware of the damage that I'm doing to myself here, right? But the Panama is just not a team that's very good at all. I believe they're going to get found out by Colombia in the quarterfinal when they play against an actual team. You can compare the teams straight up and down in both competitions, and I don't think it's close. I think that's the first measuring stick for determining if a competition is cooked or not. And when I say cooked, I just mean one being better than the other. The Euros is a better competition than Copa America. The second standard that I'm going to hold it by is the actual competition rules themselves. Okay, the competition rules in Copa America, they don't really make a lot of sense. First of all, Copa America is not nearly as formalized of a product. It just kind of happens whenever they want it to happen. It's being played in the United States. The United States isn't even in South America. Like, I realize the United States is in the tournament. We get invited every once in a while, which is another weird thing about Copa America. They just invite random teams. Now, this is the second time recently that they've invited a bunch of CONCACAF teams to try and round it out. But the competition format looks different all the time. Like, one Copa America to the other Copa America, the comparisons, you could be playing in completely different formats against completely different types of teams. One time, Mexico and the U.S. are there. The next time, they're not, and it's somebody else. I mean, look at just the last four Copa Americas. We've got 4 groups of 4, 3 groups of 4, 2 groups of 5, and then back to 4 groups of 4. In 2019, Copa America included Japan and fucking Qatar. Both of those teams were in Copa America in 2019. So how do you react to the team that won, in 2019, right? They're going up against 2 of Asia's better teams, including Asia's best team, Japan, right, in Copa America. What is that? It's basically an invitational tournament. And do I honestly believe that it is somehow watering down the quality of the tournament that much by just having Qatar and Japan in there? No, but it definitely takes away the sheen of it being either proving the best team in South America or proving the best team in the Western Hemisphere, which are the 2 options that Copa America has if Copa America wants to become an every 4-year competition where you just decide the best team in the Western Hemisphere. That's cool. That'd be great. CONCACAF's got a bunch of fun, awful teams that you can put in a large qualifying system when we can have a very normal sort of international tournament, right? Because the reason there's no qualifying for Copa America in the first place is there are 11 teams in South American qualifying. What, you're just going to do qualifying to eliminate one team and then just go from there? But the point of qualifying being to eliminate the majority of the teams before you get to a final tournament, you'd only be left with 5 teams in South America, so you just kind of let every team in there in the first place. But if they combined with CONCACAF, you could have Anguilla playing the British Virgin Islands and pretend that there's a strenuous qualifying process through which every country in South America, except for Bolivia, is able to qualify for the tournament anyways. And the last part of this whole structure thing for Copa America is the fact that it's played whenever they want. Right, there was an edition in 2001, then 2004. Oh, by the way, 99, 97, 95, 93, right? They did it every 2 years before this. Then 2004, 2007, 4-year gap to 2011, then 2015, at which point they then played it the next year to crown 100 years of Copa America in 2016. Then they played it 3 years later in 2019, bumped it to 2021 for whatever reason, and then they put it in the United States in 2024. So if Copa America kind of sneaks up on you and it's always happening when you don't know that it's happening and you just start seeing tweets or posts about it, that's why. Copa America doesn't know when Copa America is happening. It just spawns in, which means you know, for example, this being a great example, in 2015 and 2016, Chile won it back to back in penalty shootouts against Argentina in the final both times. And if you're wondering why both tournaments looked the same in the final, it's probably because they were contested within a year of each other. Right? I mean, you're talking about a tournament that happened twice in 2 years and then didn't happen for 3 years, right? So Chile wins consecutive Copa Americas because right at the peak of their powers, when their national team is cooking, they just hold the tournament twice. I don't know why this bothers me so much. I just feel like tournaments are supposed to be formalized, right? The World Cup is every 4 years. We know it's every 4 years. If that was ever going to change, it would take a massive varied voting process and a huge amount of controversy to shift that cycle. But reliably, we know that a World Cup is every 4 years, and this is a World Cup year, and here's the qualifying, and it takes years to get to this point where Copa America, because there's no qualifying, or in the case of when they invite CONCACAF teams, CONCACAF holds a little mini qualifying tournament between some of the top teams to decide whether it's Jamaica or Honduras that gets to participate, and then sends those teams to the tournament, right? But that is the extent to which planning is required for them to host this tournament in the first place. So I guess whenever somebody in South America needs to line their pockets, they can just line up another Copa America. It's also funny because it means that Lionel Messi's had a lot more shots at winning Copa America than, for example, somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo's had at winning the Euros. Right now, they both have one, so I'm not out here like, whoa, trying to stoke a fire here. That fire's plenty well stoked without me. But it changes the way you have to think about the competition. Then there's something that I talked about in the other video that came out today, which is the fact that the format is also just stupid. Like I don't know, the people coming up with the format just don't necessarily think it through, or they're trying to rig it or whatever, right? Because Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D. We've got 4 groups of 4 teams, 16 teams overall. Top 2 teams from each group make it through. That's a top 8. That's a pretty solid tournament format off the top. That tournament format makes sense. Everybody can agree with that. What doesn't make sense is that the winner of A plays the second place team from Group B. And then the second place team from A plays the winner of B. And then the winner of those 2 quarterfinals then play each other in the semifinal. Which means you do not play a team from the other half of the bracket until the final at all. It also means that if, let's say, Argentina wins and Canada wins here, which is what I am predicting is going to happen, or they've already played, right? You're just setting up a world where if the 2 teams from the same group win, you're going to get an instant rematch in the semifinal. So not only are you not mixing up the teams as much as you probably should to make the tournament more difficult for, Argentina, so they have to play somebody tougher than Ecuador before they get to the final. Granted, I thought Ecuador was better than they have been in this tournament so far. I thought they were maybe the 4th or 5th best team in South America. They've looked worse than that, which makes it even easier for Argentina, and is another great argument for, giving the winner of this game, the winner of this game, or mixing it up. That's what every other tournament does. So you're not going to end up with semifinals that are just rematches of matches that have already been played. And don't even get me started on how the actual timing is going to work in the knockouts. Like, I'm sorry, if Copa America is so important, why are we using Carabao Cup rules, League Cup rules, where you play 90 minutes and then go straight to a penalty shootout? If this is one of, if not the most important international continental tournament in the world, then why on earth is there no extra time? What is the actual argument for that? I've tried to think of one, and I don't understand it. The argument for 90 minutes and straight depends in the League Cup is fixture congestion. We're in the summer. We're playing Copa America. Legacies are allegedly on the line here. What do you mean we don't have time for extra time? Why don't we have time for extra time? I have time for extra time. I'd watch Brazil and Argentina play 30 more minutes, but no, we've got to go straight to penalties, which means that Panama, Canada, Venezuela, Uruguay, maybe Ecuador as well, are at some points, especially late in a tied match, going to be looking to play terrorist ball to try and just get to penalties, right? Because it's even easier to pull a 0-0 out in 90 minutes than it is in 120. So that's Panama's probably Panama's only goal in the game against Colombia, and I don't blame Panama. I blame the people that made the freaking rules. It made it easier to do what they're going to try to do because Panama's trying to win, and that's probably their best chance to win against Colombia. So why would you put those rules in place? I don't understand. And then we finally get to the officiating, right, which is objectively terrible. Right? I think everybody's acknowledged that. The officiating at Copa America has been wild. All you have to do is watch one or two matches to understand that most of these referees seem incapable of controlling the match in the way that good referees at the Euros have been able to control matches. Right? And then there's this table, which I think is hilarious. I don't know what my takeaway should be from this table, but this is cards in the group stage in Copa America. At the bottom, you see Uruguay, which has committed 36 fouls and has exactly one card. At the top, you see the United States, which has committed 24 fouls and has 6 cards, including a red card. Now, the red card was deserved. He literally punched a guy in the back of the head. But this table is particularly interesting because all of the CONCACAF teams are right at the top, except for Panama, which is one away from the top, right? You have the USA, Mexico, Canada, Jamaica, Costa Rica, Paraguay, who has committed 11 more fouls than any other team 9 more fouls than any other team from CONCACAF, and the fourth most fouls in the tournament. And then Panama, right? In every single one of the CONCACAF teams is right up here at the top as being overcarded. Right, so I think it's the refs in Copa America are more involved in the game. They just are. There's like a higher level of emotion and irrationality that just seems to come out. I think it's coming out against CONCACAF teams here. I'm not going to pretend the United States was anything other than bad in this tournament because it was. Did we deserve to go through? No, we did not. But also, right, like there is a clear weird way that this tournament is officiated. It is part UFC, and that is fun. You know, I'm not against the sort of violence and tribal just vitriol that goes into something like Copa America and the familiarity between all of these teams. But there is a truly outrageous number of fouls in this tournament, and the number of cards attributed per foul seems to vary widely based off of what federation that you come from. But again, I don't know exactly how to interpret this data. I just find it interesting, and I wanted to show it to you while talking about Copa America officiating because I feel like this indicates at least the variance, the wide variance that you can get from officials at Copa America. But the final point is, Copa America is just not as serious a tournament as the Euros, and unless a bunch of things change, it never really will be. It is fun, it is important, it is an awesome tournament to watch, but it's just not as serious. It's just not as big of a deal. And it's not as hard to win also, because somebody was debating that. Like, if you play for Brazil or Argentina and you start for that national team for a decade and don't win a Copa America, it's kind of a stunner, honestly. Like, it really is.